days. The rest of you will survive. My husband had great fun deciding what he was ordering me. I told him I wanted something, and then he's the Amazon guy. I don't have access to the account because we'd go bankrupt. But seriously, George came to me last year and said, Charlotte, we're going to get 900 people to convention next year. And I looked at him and said, George, you're crazy. Then I thought about it.
I was.
And without you being here, we don't have your voice. And we have chapters that haven't been here in years. I know Selkirk hadn't been here in a number of years. And so now we know what Selkirk wants. And there's others of you. If you're from a chapter who hasn't been here before in the last 2 or 3 years, please raise your hand. Well, it may only be Selkirk. No, I don't think those are Selkirk. But anyway, we have to have you here to be able to have your voice. And so then I said, well, George, I think you're right. Let's do it. Let's see how many members we can get. So we went out and we told the zone directors. We told the staff members what we wanted them to do. And then we created a grant program to help you get your members here. And a lot of you use that. Then y'all registered. And although we didn't quite make it to the 800 or 900, as Michelle said, we got a lot closer than we'd ever been before. How many of you sent your full delegation or more? So like Rosalia could have two delegates. There's 4 of us here. No, I didn't do it for me, but I mean, if you sent your full delegation, if you could have 25 and you brought all 25 or whatever it was. See, a lot of you did, and we thank you for that. And your delegation is based on the number of members in your chapters so that the votes are divided evenly. The larger chapters have more, and the others have smaller amounts. You came to this gathering representing your chapter and your members, and that's really important. That is a serious responsibility that you have here, and I hope you take it seriously because the things you vote on here will affect the membership. This is our annual business meeting, and although sometimes the bylaws are not your favorite, that's how we govern ourselves. And although BJ's speech wasn't the most exciting, I thought it was pretty good, but we have clarity. We're clearly transparent with you. You know how much money we have. You know where the money's coming from. And you know that you're all going to help us get those new hires. PSE is a member-led union. And you have demonstrated and taken it seriously that you know the effect of Janice, because over this last year, I've seen you stand up for the rights recognition and respect for the classified employees, whether they're ours or whether they're just general classified employees. You've done it. If it was up to me, you could all be up on this stage right now and I'd give you all an award, because you are the ones that do the work in your local chapters along with your field staff. You do it. You meet those new members, and that responsibility is serious, and a lot of you are taking it extremely serious, and we appreciate it. And we will provide you more training if you need more help to be able to get your new members. I've never been so proud of my union family as I am. I'm not going to cry. As I am right now. It's been an amazing year. The year started out in Grand Coulee. They held a Stuff the Bus. They'd never had a Stuff the Bus. And so the members planned and organized, and I was up there. It was a beautiful day, a mild 102 degrees.
People come and bring donations, and we
Fires in the area, so it was full of smoke. But I stood back and watched. This chapter is on an Indian reservation. So they have very little resources, and a lot of the students are extremely low income. Not because of where they live, but there just isn't that many employment opportunities. So we rallied the community. They had a bus. You cannot believe the amount of stuff. One group came and brought 30 filled backpacks for these kids. These kids, yeah, it's amazing. We had one little girl who came with her grandma and had brought her backpack full of stuff and was so proud to be able to help someone else have a backpack this year, because those students don't get the basic needs that we take for granted. We parked near the grocery store, and along came this gentleman, and he had 5 crisp $100 bills. And he donated them. And he wouldn't give us his name because it was for the kids. He didn't want any recognition. And travelers came through with motorhomes and stopped and said, "What do you need? What do your kids need?" They went into the Safeway store and bought those things and brought them back out. By the time they were done, the bus was nearly stuffed. And as exciting as that is, then they went and opened a PSE store the day before school at their Welcome Back barbecue, and students and parents got to shop for the things they needed. In my world, every kid needs a new box of crayons when they go to school, because I always lived for those crayons. And there's something about the smell of crayons that means the first day of school. But those kids had them. They got school supplies, they got personal hygiene items, people donated snacks. The kids that came to school without enough to eat had a snack in the morning. It was amazing. The parents were crying, the teachers were crying, the paraeducators, all the classified employees were crying. And the people said, "You just did this for our kids?" And they said, "Yes, because they're our kids too." And it was amazing. But you know what happened as a result of that? In the spring, when Grand Coulee had to do a picket in front of their school because they weren't going to give them livable wage, the union workers from the dam came and supported them. And that was because they did a community outreach and weren't thinking of themselves. And the people at the dam said, "You did this for our kids and you didn't have to." And so they were proud of them. Grand Coulee, where are you? They've got 3 members here. So if you don't think you can do a stuff the bus, or you never have, call Grand Coulee. They'll tell you how to do it and do it well. In fact, this year they're going to do it and have the teachers help, and they're going to have 2 buses because one wasn't enough. And the members just thought it was, you know, a wish to get it done. But this year has been amazing. I've been with you and seen you, and you've walked picket lines together, chapter across chapter, and people who'd never come out walked picket lines. You showed up at school board meetings wearing blue shirts and packed the room. I've seen this kind of stuff before, but never on the level I saw it this year. It was different. You knew that Janice had an impact on you, and it made a big difference in how you showed up. And people who'd never been active showed up. We stood outside in 30-mile-an-hour winds in Kennewick with sand blowing at us. And nobody complained. And as everybody drove by, they honked their horns, because we had signs, "Honk if you support unions." And it was amazing. It just was great. And they, you know, it just was cool. Several chapters voted down contracts. Did any of you not accept the district's first offer? That's kind of tough, isn't it? Because they'll tell you, "No, that's the best we can do." We had chapters that voted down the district's last best offer. And they knew what it would do, and they didn't care because they deserved respect. They knew they had strength as a union family, and that we would support each other and we would get it right. In Richland, the district decided to cut 100 paraeducators approximately. Yeah. Some were because of attrition. Some left on their own, but yes, it was over 100, but those that were going to actually be cut were the 100. So they, oh, I forgot this part, sorry. Central Valley, where are you? We did picketing there. They had 3 generations there. Mom worked for the district, mom and dad worked for the district, and they brought the kids. The family came together to support this. They know the value of a union. For some of you, this is your first union job, but they know the value of a union. Anyway, the district in Richland was going to cut over 100 jobs. So they had a meeting with an administrator who came in, and our members went to the mic and told how this would impact their students. They never mentioned that there were looming cuts for them and they'd lose their job. They're standing at the mic crying because they wondered who was going to love their kids. I've come so far with them. How are those kids going to get by? Because it takes a long time to build a relationship. Kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They don't let you in their world easily. So some of these people have worked with these kids for 5 or 6 years. We had a mother come to the mic. This was amazing, and I hope I remembered the story exactly right, but it sounds good the way I wrote it. But this mother got up to the mic and said, I have a son with special needs, and he doesn't do well sitting for a long period of time. And so, you know, a lot of things he can't do. Well, then she said, after working with his para, they saw some changes. Now that child can go to a family dinner. He can go out in public. But the mother was thrilled. He sat through a movie. Those are things you and I take for granted. They never thought it would happen. The impossible happened because you, Richland, where are you? They never talked about themselves. They talked about the kids. They thought someone who wasn't in special ed and didn't understand their kids and didn't know they were going to be kicked, didn't know they were going to be bit, and these people didn't care about that because they were making differences in lives one day at a time. Well, guess what happened? The community stood up with them too. More parents came out and talked. And the school board backed down. The school board had to admit they were wrong and that you did know what was best for the kids. And how many of you were cut? None! None! You showed up, they figured out what was wrong, and that is what a union family and union solidarity looks like. It was tough. I was there. I watched them cry. But they never mentioned themselves. It was all about the kids. Let's be honest, we don't do this job for the big money we make. We do it because we're changing the world one child at a time. Thank you, Richland. And I can only share a few stories because I've been to a lot of chapters. I've done a lot of pickets. I've done a lot of school board meetings. And it was amazing. In Kennewick, the district wouldn't give them a livable wage. They refused. So what'd they do? Picketed outside the administration building over and over and over again. Then they showed up at school board meetings. They packed the room with blue shirts. When the room was full, they packed the hall. And they didn't do it once, it was over and over again. They testified to what this would do. But better yet, this is a group of paraeducators, LPNs, and cashiers. Teachers got up and said, I can't do my job without them. I can't. They have the relationship with the kids. The LPNs, The nurses stood up and said, we have medically fragile children. They can only be at school because they have an LPN in the building. Most districts can't afford to have an RN. You have a roving RM in most districts. They talked. The district said, this is our last best offer. They went to a church, packed the church. Guess what we had done? Prior to this, we'd called media. We had media there. Outside, we had teachers picketing in support of the vote that was going on in the building. And the teachers said, if they walk, we walk. They knew they couldn't do their job without the paraeducators. Kennewick pays so poorly, they were worried about losing their jobs. How many paras does Kennewick have, Laurie? About 600. Anybody want to guess how many subs that district has? 7. 7. They pay so well that they only can get 7 people to come. But these people showed up and talked about their kids, not about themselves. That's dedication. Kennewick, where are you? They took the strike vote. And now, one of the Kennewick chapter presidents, Cookie Mabry and Laurie Schmidt, will come up here to help tell me what happened in your district. So, how was it?
Probably gonna cry because that's what we said. She's already crying. Well, let's just say we created a bond like no other. It was a tough year. I want Cookie to talk about it. Well, first I want to give a shout out to Cookie. She is one of the most inspiring leaders there is. And this could not have been done without her. Okay, go for it.
Okay, well, Charlotte did a very good job of telling you what my bullet points were. She hit them all. So basically, I guess one of the first things I think people need to realize is that we did what we did because the district said, we're done. And we thought, okay, you're done for the day?
Yeah.
And we'll come back and continue bargaining? No, we're done. This is our best offer. We said, no way. So we decided that we needed to do something about it. So Laurie and the group, we called a meeting with our members, and we said, okay, this is what the district offered. First of all, that meeting was probably the next day or 2 days after. But about 400 of our folks came out. Like Charlotte said, we had it off school property, we had it at a church. But we said, this is what they offered. Do we accept it or not? The bargaining team does not accept it, but if the membership accepts it, then we accept it and we move on. What happens if we don't accept it? Well, we've got options and we can authorize to vote, authorize to strike. We voted, they voted it down. So what's the next step is, okay, authorizing to vote. What does that mean? To strike, sorry. What does that mean? What it means is that not just 10 members, not just 20 members, not just 15 members, but all members need to commit to go through the process. It was very difficult, it was hard, but the members said that we'll do it. It's easy to say, okay, let's strike, because that's kind of exciting and we'll see what happens. But when it really comes down to it, it's a very scary thing. It's very scary and it's very serious, and it's something that you just don't do overnight. But with our members and with PSC's leadership, we were able to pull together our building reps and those interested. We were able to sit down and decide, okay, what's the process? We figured out where we were going to rally, at what parts in Kennewick, what times we were going to do that, depending on what was happening in the community. And we need folks out there. And my goodness, Kennewick showed up. Not just the paras, not just the classified, as Charlotte said, but our teachers rallied with us. We had other union folks, Teamsters. We had
Nurses, firefighters.
all those people, they were out supporting us. We had media coverage. Travis came out. We had folks talking. And we did that, like Charlotte said, for 3 days straight. Morning before work, it was important, come out and rally, but get to work on time. I don't think we had any incidences of our classified being late or whatever. We did that 3 days. We got a call from the superintendent that said, I'm trying to pass a bond here. This doesn't look good. You guys are getting...
He said, Laurie, what can we do? Let's talk.
You guys are getting more media attention
Than
the bond that I'm trying to pass. So, okay, and that's what we wanted. You know, we didn't want to strike. Nobody wants to strike. Nobody wants to strike. What we wanted was the district to say, come on back to the table, let's talk. And that's exactly what happened. We met with the superintendent. It was him and our bargaining team.
That's it. He was
That's
alone.
it. The
He's like,
bargaining,
he was worried that if they brought back who we were bargaining with, that it wouldn't get a deal, and he was probably right. So we hashed it out on a Friday night and got a tentative agreement.
5 hours. We sat with him for 5 hours, longer than we had sat with the bargaining team ever.
The whole
Ever.
time. Another thing that I want to add to is the WA rep called me and he said, I just want you to know that this is making WA history. So this was the first time that a teachers group had actually voted on behalf of another union to strike before we had even voted to strike. Yes, they said before school started, if the paras strike, they're going out too. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was great to have their support. The other thing that I wanted to point out is Kennewick paras have a building rep at every single site. There's about 30-some sites, and they have a rep at each one, some 2. So here's the deal, guys. You need to make sure that you have a plan in place before something like this happens. Because we had a plan there, we have reps, we were able to activate like that. We literally, when we voted that night, we had all of our reps come together at the PSE office. We got a plan to go what schools we're going to go to. We had over 100 people at the district the next day. So you have to get a plan in place. Don't wait until it's too late. You need to have the plan in place before. Right?
Exactly right.
Oh, the other thing I want to touch on, just because it's pretty cool. So the district was previously offering us 3.6 to 6.22. That's, from the starting to the end. After it was said and done, we went from 8 to 11%. And overall, for 2 years, it was 19.7% increase.
Did you need a tissue or you okay?
I think I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
So, do we have the power? Would it have worked the same if 5 people came out? No. Who benefits from the raise? Those 5 people or everybody?
There's one thing that I do want to say too is, so since we did that, so we had about 400 people come out, but since that, we've been getting an average of over 100 people at every chapter meeting. People are motivated, they're inspired, and they want to do better.
And one of the other things that came out of it is not just more folks coming to our meetings, but we brought 10 people to this convention, and I'm thinking that sitting at this table is the future of Kennewick para cashiers LPN's chapter. because I'm not going to be here for much longer, but I think we've got a good group that we got that's going to carry us to the future, and I'm so excited.
And then I'll close with this. Just one more thing. I know they're trying to kick us off of here. We had two people that had opted out that opted back in because of this.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I know.
No problem. So that kind of strength scares people. It scared their district. They knew they wouldn't pass that bond if they didn't get on the good side of the paraeducators and the cashiers and the LPNs. And it was amazing. Those teachers were out there picketing in the rain saying, if they walk, we walk, when we were taking the vote. It was amazing. As if one strike wasn't enough fun, we had two chapters that had a strike vote. In Issaquah, the members were shocked and disappointed that the district would not give them the COLA, because in their opinion, the COLA didn't exist anymore. But don't worry, they gave themselves the money. So the Issaquah chapter came together with SEIU Local 925 together and worked to get the information out. They called the strike vote. And I'd like Emily Freet, the chapter president, and John Capel, her field rep, to come up and tell us about that. I know, I saw it.
So I too am going to mainly defer to Emily because it's become a real joke. You can't hear me? That's a first.
Maybe we need to be taller.
Okay. It's kind of become a big joke. Emily had been an employee 5 months before she became president. And I had reassured her several times it was going to be a fairly easy job.
It was a closed contract, you see.
Yeah. So when they said no COLA, no nothing, we too went into action really quickly. We have 125 members, approximately, and we filed 125 grievances. We had a petition at every school that both the paraeducators with SEIU 925 and us signed, so that we had reams and reams and reams of paper to drop off whoever would listen.
I think that something to know about our chapter that's a little bit different is we are not wall-to-wall. So at Issaquah, we are a huge district compared to some of the others. We have over 22,000 students, but PSE only represents the office professionals. And so we don't have a lot of power in the buildings. So at every building, we might just have 1 or 2 or 3 people. And so it was, while we're critical to those buildings, we didn't have a lot of concentrated, obvious power. And so, so that became apparent right away. And so what was really important was the coalitions that we just heard Laurie and Cookie talk about, which were natural in your wall-to-wall, in Kennewick, what you have already naturally, we had to then form. But what was happening is the paras were going through the same thing at the same time. And so we formed that coalition with the paras right away. And while they took a little bit different approach to how they were filing their grievances, we still, we're trying to just kind of, our initial approach was maybe 1,000 little cuts, and they'll see what was happening. And, well, that didn't work.
Yeah, so after the grievances and the petitions, we formed a strike committee because everybody kept asking, could we do this? Is this actually something that's viable? And I gave them a lot of assurance that I was about 30% sure that yes, we could strike. Because I had never heard of going on strike when we didn't even have an open contract. We set a precedent in Washington State. I think we may have set a precedent in the entire nation because that's kind of unheard of.
So, we also heard about, this being prepared right away, to be able to take action right away. And I wasn't prepared for this at all. Not only was
Again, I said it would be an easy job.
He did say it was an easy job. I really thought that we were in the middle of a contract. We were in the middle of a 3-year contract, so I didn't think that this would happen. And also, I came from the private sector, and so I know a lot about contract negotiations, and we have this thing called specific performance. And so I just thought that we was like, oh, this contract's being violated. Isn't that what happens, is that you just sue, and people, they'll fix it. So John and I had a little bit different philosophy about striking. I was like, hell yeah, we can strike, and so we, as a chapter, were pretty aggressive, and that was really kind of an interesting thing, because it's also super scary, because we're, as you all know, we're talking about our livelihoods, and there's so much risk. And the district was so condescending and nasty every step of the way. And school had already started. School had started. Our paychecks just weren't getting filled the way they were supposed to get filled. And so anyway, we went through the process. We formed coalitions with all of the other unions, because we are fragmented in our district. There's a union for every different position. So, but we had this tight coalition. The teachers ended up supporting us. The teachers individually were saying they were supporting us, but as a union, they weren't taking formal action until the end. And it turned out they were actually doing it kind of behind the scenes, and it was beautiful, but they weren't doing it out loud right away.
And we came up with our own hashtag, East About Respect. We put it everywhere. We put it in the community. We made it catchy. We made it fun. We had a 94% yes vote on that strike vote.
But one thing I want to make sure is super clear is none of this would have happened without the support of PSE staff. Every step of the way, what was so apparent and became the ultimate or penultimate thing for our membership, and really invigorating to kind of this kind of lazy chapter. Our chapter isn't lazy, but our chapter just kind of gotten complacent about, what does the union do for us? Why do we pay dues? And now I don't hear that question. People who had opted out are opting back in, because PSE staff formed around us, supported us, taught us, and came through with us. We came through this together. So it wasn't just John. I look around this room, and there were people from all over the state that were scaffolding to our success. And so that was also the key. Yes, we need to do that in the building. We need to support ourselves. We are the union, but it became so apparent that, it's what we pay for. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's obvious in both of these cases, it wasn't just one union. They brought in their brothers and sisters from SEIU 925, and they were a stronger force. Cookie and Emily, you are the perfect examples of what a strong leader looks like. Those weren't easy decisions you had to make. But you know what? Every one of you here is a leader. Every one of you. You're a leader whether you realize it or not. You've taken the first step. And we need hardworking leaders. This organization is run on volunteers. We currently have about 30,000 members. But unfortunately, we only have contact with about 3,000 of them. And we need to reach out and find out what they want, what they need, and get them involved. If we have 3,000 active leaders, and all 3,000 active leaders mentored 3 more people, we'd have 9,000 next year. Any guess what we'd have the year after it continued? 27,000. And all you have to do is each talk to 3 people and get them involved. Get them on the radar so they can stand up with us and we can show our strength as a group. But we have to remember, we have to be understanding and caring and compassionate. Everybody's got something going on in their lives. Don't be aggressive and mean. You have to listen first and find out what they want, what they need. And then you can talk to them later. Be welcoming. When someone new comes into the building, greet them and say hello. How many of you remember your first day at work? Were you thrilled or were you scared to death? If you were scared, raise your hand. I think I have 2 up. So be that friendly face. Be the person they can come to. Build a relationship, become a friend. For many of them, it is their first union job, and they've never had one before, and they don't know what the union can provide for them. Tell them we have a great working relationship with the district because we're union. And you don't have to convince them right now. The best thing you can do, even if they say no, is to continue to be there for them and continue to be kind and nice to them. Kennewick, Richland, and Issaquah, you learned how important it is for everyone to be involved. Because if 5 of you showed up at those events, it wouldn't have done anything. This fall, we'll have between 4,000 and 5,000 new hires. We need to get them in our union so that we have the strength. You know when the best day to do that is? The first day. But if you don't get them on the first day, don't give up on them. Continue to be kind. Continue to be welcoming. Everybody's got something going on in their life, and we don't know what it is. And this just may not be their time. Like Emily said, and Cookie said, people opted out and came back once they saw the power. I was lucky. I grew up in a union family. How many of you are from union families? So for you, there was no hesitation joining a union. Some of you had never heard of a union until you came to the school. These people now have an option to opt in or out. Make them want to be part of your team. It's your duty to reach out to these new members, and it's critical for us as PSE to continue to operate the way we're operating and provide the services we need to provide for you, for us to do that.